All right, guys, I am completely in uncharted waters, even for myself. I'm going after the Variator. Maybe I'm making a hybrid. Maybe I'm making or having to use 300 parts before I'm done. However, instead, I have to come up with a solution. I may have to cut this off, which is completely doable, and put in the 300 bolt, which I have over there in my parts supply. I will show you what I'm trying to get away from, and we will go from there. What I am attempting to do is eliminate this mechanism right here using a 300 components. A man in Missouri that's ran a lot of these in fescue said that he eliminated that and went back to the 300 design because it worked better. So that's what I've already attempted to do. This here bracket could be problematic. I may have to slice that with a wheel, make it exactly like the 300s. So here's what I am attempting to eliminate. I have already cut this off with a swag bandsaw over at the main shop. So that is gone. This piece then that slid from the bottom with this spring-loaded bolt and attachment then is eliminated. Now, I don't know if I can use a mix mash of hardware. I don't think I can. We'll have to go back to the original bolt and the square slotted washer, which I'll show you later, in the 300 style. Now, I'm telling you all of this, but this here little paragraph says early machines used a nut and washer on the bolt with square-ended slider blocks. Okay? The bolt is installed from the machine side. Somebody in my last video about this said I screwed myself because I couldn't change them along the road, but I'm going by what the book says. So you have to slide it out the end, not a big deal. Slider blocks with beveled ends of this type. Beveled ends are installed with the bolt head outward and bolt is threaded into right block. Beveled blocks can be used to replace the square-ended blocks. Insert bolt from left side with lock washer under bolt head. So that's how they did it on early machines. Now I could look for them blocks. That would maybe solve my problem. However, I want to kind of keep moving forward. Now I could go back to the 300 assembly right here. It's the same. I've checked it out, but it's not the same. This is where the cylinder mounts right here. The grease cert is sitting on the grease cert. This is where the cylinder mounts for the 300. This is where the cylinder mounts. You notice we have two holes here on the 540. That is because the stop to adjust your belt travel on the Variator has a different kind of bolt arrangement. Now, if I wanted to use this piece, I could go back to the old cylinder. Let me show you. One of these with my stops on the cylinder itself. That's how you adjust the amount of cylinder travel. It is the same cylinder. It would go right in there where that one is. This one has been rebuilt, but this is, and then I just have to put a pin in here, just like the 300 for the clutch. There's a video where I did all this, but you can see that there's two for that, and then we're going to adjust our travel when we have it in here, and I go through all of that in the 300 video. I put on new hoses Got the kit from Massey for this. Had a friend rebuild that for me. I've never been one to do cylinders, but that might change in the future. But well, I'm showing you what would be involved. Could be done, but I think I'm going to come together with a hybrid of my own, and it will work just fine. You can see that it is a little bit different on the height. Now I am on a grease zerk, but that shouldn't make any difference because that little bit is not going to be affecting the travel. Now, that being said, this is what I want to put in there and get back to. This was originally in the 300 arm, and you can see how that's open because you tighten the nut right there. You got to tighten that. There's a nut there, so and after you make your adjustments, you loosen it and you slide it. This one, you never have to loosen that bolt if I could use those wedges, because when you put it in, you tighten it up, and then it slid down by one adjustment on that long bolt. However, none of these 540s had an upgrade that I've seen. They would weld some pieces of metal with like sawtooths on them, and then they would bolt back here a piece, and those sawtooths would fall into that as you moved it forward, so it couldn't come back. I think the spring is too weak and doesn't allow it to stay tight, and creates, and I've seen that on 2 540s. The first one I owned had that upgrade, and I thought, well, Farmer designed that. And then lo and behold, I seen another 540 with the exact same design, and I know it wasn't the one I had because mine's in a museum up in Canada. My last 540 I had was so nice that a guy bought it for his collection, and even was in the Massey magazine a few years. He's passed away, but his son has finished the museum, and I'm going to go up there sometime. So that all being said, the carriage head bolt will slide through here, but once we tighten this, it's tightened against the fork and can't be adjusted just from one adjustment. You have to loosen two things. I hope this is all making sense. I will get the hardware down and show you. Now you guys would have to envision the Variators here with its special spacers there, okay? They're inside of here, okay? So you can see the square head is in the track. It can't turn. And you can see here that it would be clamped and bolted. Now I am noticing right now this is wider, so I'll have to investigate that. So what I need to do now is look at my blocks and see if they can help me, because this here is wider, so that's a little bit of a problem that I didn't anticipate. If I fail at this, I can take it off of that machine over there. I can take it off of that machine right there. So I don't think I'm going to fail at this. I could also take this stuff off here, weld this on here. There's many different things that I could do to make this work, but I think we'll be all right. All right, guys, there's some things that made a decision for me. I was going over to drill those out to 15/16, use them in there, and have the pulley sliding. Now, this would be on the bottom side. Don't hear me out now. I know what I'm doing. But these holes go down in there on those blocks. And then this thing is able to move back and forth, but you see the slop, this is tight. I tightened it up right there. This is able to move by that thing pulling it back with the big nut, or the big bolt I showed you, right down there, and it's under spring tension. So I was thinking of doing that with the 300 yoke But then I put it all together just to test my theory, and there's a lot of play in here even with that in there, and that's where this weakness lies. So what I've opted to do is cut this off, weld it back on at the appropriate place, taking measurements here, and using the 300 arm and going back to the old bolt method. The old bolt method in here for that. So got to cut that off, but I wanted to make sure it fit here. Everything fits up nicely. So we're going to be totally old school, but the easiest thing to do for me is to cut this off very gently with a cutting wheel and clean everything up, re-weld it onto that one, and I'll get it out and I'll show you, and then be able to use the old bolts, everything we need to put that back to old school 300 design. So this has got to go. That'll be easy to get off. I'll be working on that next. This has got to be saved. So we will be totally doing away with this, and I've got another reason why I want to show you. Fold out, and I'm going to show you those blocks and the vibration that we are dealing with. So not only does the mechanism weak with that spring, but I think because that is not bolted tight to the forks. I don't know if you can see it there or not. There's a slot bore in that. Pretty pronounced, at least a 1/16, especially towards the front here. None on this one, so I think it would have held it. But I think from all of that play and vibration in those wider slots is the problem. So we're going to go old school. We'll have to make notes on the combine itself. The Variator has been converted to a 300 design, so somebody in the future will know what we did, but we're eliminating that. This will be void. This will be back in play, and when we tighten that bolt, it will be good to go. Started at 5 o'clock and it's 5:35 now, so this went quicker than I thought. This is the 540 Variator. It will not be Variator arm, let me say. That will not be being used. This is the piece off the original 300 that couldn't be used in the wrong place and didn't have the right parts. So they ground off easy with a cutting wheel. I did go over to the main shop because I have a lot more jigs, cutting wheels, flat tables, and tools. I've only got 4 tacks on here. It was 1.16 inches, was 1.16 inches between here. Got that all laid in. It had a raised edge just like this when I ground it off, so you can kind of see right where my grind mark was, even though I ground that flat. So I'm confident we got it in the right place. This is the critical one. From the back edge to here, 21.5. So we got all that straight and true. I only tacked it in 4 places because I want to come out here and do a test fit before we put it on. So here we go. All right, guys, I laid her in with the Miller 211. And under there, I did get a little proud. I had to buff it down a little bit. There's the Miller 211, Miller-Matic. I'm telling you guys, we love those welders. They're good. But I have to make sure that the yoke slides. So I buffed everything down. Now I'm going to sandblast that area in the blasting cabinet. Get this thing painted tonight, Monday morning. It's 6 o'clock now, so this took me right at an hour for this mod. I did have to drive a 1/4 mile to fit it up. I wanted to do the grinding and cutting over here and the welding. I had different tools. But there it is. We are going to have, that was the simplest fix. Drilling this out would have ruined this. I would have had all of that vibration and slop from the beginning. I wouldn't have improved anything. So I'm glad I went this route, and I think it is going to work out lovely. And we should get rid of all that slop in there and have a smoother running machine. We are back at it today. Tuesday. Monday was too busy. This is Tuesday, the 26th, I believe. And we are ready to get a Variator installed. It's time to get this job done and see what we can get going here. I'm ready to get out of the corner of this combine, I can tell you that. So we're going to get the parts together. We're going to get ready to slide it on and quit talking about it and get to doing. We have the Variator arm installed. Now, I don't have the keeper on here, bracket that goes up to here because I'm putting my belts in, but I do have the little washer here. This is a shim washer that has to be on there. You don't want to lose or forget. Got that all cleaned up and is on there. That takes out any side movement. I have my pins in. This will be the stop that we have to adjust eventually. Got my cylinder in. That's all good. Before I put the thing, the Variator in, I want to make sure the hoses are protected. I think they had these zip tied together like this. So we'll be doing that, and then they should be good to go. And then we're going to go over the bolt that will go into the Variator, and we'll need our belts in the Variator so that we can begin to button this up right here and getting everything hooked up. So this is exciting. All right, we're going into the Variator. I have taken this apart and inspected it. There's my marks. You got to mark it when you take it apart to line it back up. You want to get the grease track in there. Previous video about all of that. Watch it if needed. You can always reach out to me and call me. You can find my number if you search hard enough. And we're getting this. We are now going to be putting away the 540 book, moving back to the 300 book, because we're going to be putting this configuration together here. So I will get all the hardware cleaned, and then you will see how that goes together. We've got our seal, felt seal, our big washer, all of that, spacer on the other side, flat washer, lock washer there, and new felt seal, part number 832964M1. So let me get all the hardware cleaned up, and I also will need to get my belts out because you got to put your belts on it when you slide it into the yoke. All right, I'm getting our belts in order. We have to think this through. They do not have lower and upper wrote down in their description. The traction drive belts for the 300 numbers are different, so I don't know for sure about that if it's the same, but the lower one going down to the transmission is 843732M2, which transfers over to an 843732V2 now. The upper one is 844091M1. That transfers over to a 844091V1. These are from AGCO this time. There is the number of the lower right on the belt. You can see it there. And we've got the upper here, 844091V1. So I have to get these in the right grooves. Okay, the one on the left, which is the outer belt, will be going to the upper power shaft. The one on the right will be going to the transmission. So here we have the belts. Obviously I did this like in December or January of last year. We're getting ready to put the yoke on. You got to have that all on there. Then you got to lift this all in place and put it in the slide. So now we're going to work on the bolt here, the bolt, and go from there. All right, putting the bolt in. We're doing the 300 assembly, but we're reading both books and getting it right. You got to put this felt retainer washer in with the bevel towards your bearing. That goes on just like that. And then this piece goes in here like that. I have that soaked in oil. All right, you can see how this went together. Now we want to leave enough room there for the forks to slide past here and go around our pieces, because that's what goes into the arm that moves up and down. And we got our spacer in there that goes up against the race of the bearing. And then we've got this all centered up here, and we go from there. All right, we have this installed. Used a forklift, and my son came out and helped me get that in there. I used to manhandle those things in there, but that's what age will do for you. So, here's where I'm at. She just barely goes by, like with any of them. You gotta get your clutch rods out of here, and she kind of scrapes on this sprocket here to get her all out, but we should be exactly where we were with the other one. We just have a better tightening mechanism now. So I think that's all coming together nicely, and we'll keep assembling. I'm going to have to put a ratchet strap on here, pull it up here, and get it over the pulley, which shouldn't take too long. All right, I took just a small ratchet strap, hooked it together around the engagement shaft. That pulls it up, allows you to slip the belt right over, just barely fits right over the pulley. And so we have the first Variator belt on, and now we would be working on striving to get the clutch done and that Variator belt put on. So I will take the ratchet strap off, and we should be getting in a good position here. Well guys, I'm pretty excited. Came back from lunch, got the belt on down there and the clutch, and got plenty of take up here with our old school, new school Variator bracket. So now all I gotta do is run it up, get the belts tight, and we are in business. We're going to move into the unloading drive and getting this corner buttoned up. Get back on, feels like we're getting something done and productive around here. So once I get it adjusted, I'll catch right up with you. All right guys, this concludes the traction drive belt installation. Variator changeover to a 300 support arm, get rid of all that funky stuff that didn't work and created a lot of chatter. And new clutch installed, everything torqued that nut to 55 foot-pounds. This is all tight. You will see a little bit of oil coming out of here. That's from me soaking the felt seal in oil just to give it lubrication and protection. So that will come out, but everything is good to go. Belt's tightened up. I got tons of adjustment yet for stretch right there. New seals in the cylinder, new hoses because I was there. The only thing we have left to do is adjust the stop, but I will need an assistant for that. So, getting right along, we are going to start hooking up the traction drive, putting the counter shaft in, come along for the adventure. It's moving along and we are doing well. So like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for watching and thanks for your patience on this. It was a lot of scratching our head and moving kind of slow with other things that are going on too. The last thing we have to do on the Variator is adjust its limit of travel. So that's what we have to do. Let's grab the book, take a look at limit of travel and adjust that, and we are done, ready to start buttoning up this area. Well, I started everything to start my adjustment, and nothing like making your heart sink. I had forgotten to tighten these two things after putting the new hoses on. So oil was running down and made a puddle there. That's nothing like thinking, oh great, now I have to take everything off. So, all right, back to adjustment. We needed to, in this one here, it only came up to about right in here. So we need to adjust our stop on the take-up. Start engine and move ground speed control lever to the low speed position. Hold until stop is reached. Stop engine. Upper belt drive should be 1/8 below or flush with outer rim of pulley. We were probably 1/4 inch below of the outside Variator pulley. When drive belt is in this position, head of stop bolt should be in contact with underside of block 2. To adjust, loosen nut 3, which is up here, and move it a turn or two. Okay, took several trips up the ladder, and it's flush. Right there, it's flush. So we got our upper limit stopped. Pretty sure we got our lower limit adjusted. We adjust it down and then move the Variator the other way. All right, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. We have right at almost flush there, just a little bit, and almost here. So I'm going to call that good. These stretched a little from all the running, the heating up, so we can now tighten that a little bit more and double check everything here. Make sure this is tight. We have our limits done. This bottom one adjusts this side. This top one here adjusts this side. You turn the whole rod when you do that one. So let's call it a day. Variator completed. Like, share, and subscribe.